Hi everyone, as I told you, we have special guests and he's happened to be the Oscar nominated director of Inside Out. Please welcome to our show, Ronnie del Carmen.
Hello everybody. How are you doing today?
How are you, Ronnie? Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And let's get right to it. Is your dream to be in animation, Ronnie?
Is it my dream? Actually, when I started out, I didn't have any dreams related to animation, other than wanting to watch it as a kid on TV. It was just nonstop cartoons on TV. And in the Philippines, I grew up in Cavite City, and there was at least one channel. We had several channels back then, back in the 60s, and a lot of them showed American programming.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned. Yes. I'm glad that you mentioned Cavite because I've been there.
Oh, lovely.
What part? What part of Cavite?
I grew up in Cavite City itself, which is kind of like at the tip of Cavite, and it is where the U.S. naval base Sangley Point is. So I live really close to that. So there's a piece of America right there behind like gates and barbed wire. And you can look in, but I've only stepped into that base about like a handful of times as a kid. But that's the U.S. right there. And I lived in the town right next to that.
Yes. I don't know if this is your big break at all. I heard it from the grapevine that you've already worked with Hollywood while in the Philippines. Share us your experience.
Yes, I did, and it all was by accident. I needed to work to help the family just straight out of high school. So about like 3 days after graduating from high school, and my sister had already like found a job at Hemisphere Pictures. And she decided that, I'm going to be able to get you on a list of people that work in the art department because you can draw. And I was like 15, 16, and I was thinking, sure, but we really needed the money, so I did. Now, my friends were going to college, but I was going to go to work. And it was a Hemisphere Pictures, and it was a war movie that they were making. And of course, I find out that it is Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now. Which, of course, to me, it's just like, it's a job, and they paid per diem. And I was the youngest member of the painting crew there at the end of Buendia, near the Zuelec building.
Wow.
Is Hemisphere Pictures behind that. And I went to work there, and I was the youngest member, but nobody wanted to give me the jobs because I was inexperienced. All the older men kind of didn't trust me to do anything right, and they were correct. I didn't know how to do anything. They tried to teach me as best they could, and I was slow to learn. So they only gave me the jobs that nobody wanted to do.
That's well said. I'm glad that you shared that to us. And now, moving forward with this amazing career of yours, particularly you were nominated for the Oscars. Share us your work in Inside Out, and where did you get the concept? I know one of the story, you were the supervisor of that, and then you also co-directed it.
I'm the co-director of the movie, and my partnership is with the director, Pete Docter, who I've worked with before when we made Up. And that was such a great partnership. He invited me to be his co-director on his next movie, which became Inside Out. And Inside Out was Pete Docter's idea that came from a moment and he was wondering why his daughter, Ellie, whom we know because we lived in the same city here in Oakland. We were neighbors, and my daughter would babysit his kids. And then at some point, his daughter, Ellie, was more quiet and more kind of not as cheerful as she used to be. And he was wondering, like, what happened to my little girl who used to kind of just bounce around happy and talkative, and everything was about daddy this, daddy, daddy, daddy. And then that just stopped. So as a parent, he wondered, what's going on? What happened to my kid? What's going on in her head? And that meant that he wanted to find out. And the best way for Pete Docter to find out is to make a movie about it.
Wow.
Because you will get lots of answers because you're going to be able to talk to people who are experts on the brain, emotion, psychology, psychiatry. We got educated as to what emotions are.
That's so clever, Ronnie. And now let's bring into my guest host from Sydney, Australia, Julianne Richards. Are you there? Yes. I know. You have a question for us to our special guest, Oscar-nominated Ronnie del Carmen.
Yes, I do.
Hello, Julianne.
First of all, I just want to say how extremely honored I am, MJ, to be your co-host, and also to give the opportunity to be interviewing you, Ronnie, alongside MJ on his show Blog Talk. So my first question for you today is, I'm just curious to know, in your many years in the industry doing what you love, if you could relive one highlight in your career, what would it be and why?
Well, there's many. That's for sure. Well, one of which is this career had brought me to the Oscars twice. And you draw for a living, you make cartoons. You don't even think of the Oscars as something that would happen. But yet I've been to the Oscars twice. One as a guest because one of our movies is nominated. That was up. And then the second, I was a nominee, which is like a step up, and it was amazing. So those are highlights. And mind you, I'm not a person who's enamored of awards, but it's the Oscars. This is the pinnacle of achievement in the industry that I belong to. So that is one memory. But the other memories are really about making the movies. One of which was making Up, wherein I got to incorporate a lot of the stories that are about my own father into the movie. My father, who had bravely immigrated to the United States and had managed to bring us all over here through lots of sacrifice my parents had made for us. And to find a career in animation, it feels very lucky. And then to be making a movie wherein I started drawing Carl Fredricksen, like my father, who has a shock of white hair, glasses and jowls. But my father, by then, was already in hospice and he couldn't speak. Now, you know that Up was made with a large portions of the movie are done without dialogue. At the opening of the movie, I was privileged enough to actually be in charge of opening the movie, to tell the story of Carl and Ellie. But I was also in charge of telling the end of the second act, when Carl had achieved his dream and brought the house onto Paradise Falls, and he gets to leaf through the adventure book, and he gets to recount the life he's had with Ellie. I pitched that as storyboards to my father, who couldn't speak anymore, but could only show to me what he sees. And I tell him, look, Dad, I'm drawing you. Even though the character design isn't about my father, but because he looks enough like him, I got to show that in storyboards to my father. And because of that, I used a lot of the expressions my father would give me, because he can't speak anymore. When he reacts, it's only through his eyes and his smile. So I got to incorporate that into the moment of that part of the movie. And it's wordless, and it's all just about imagery. I'm recounting the life of my father, along with trying to workshop that into Carl's life. And that means a lot to me, that I got to memorialize my own father, who didn't live to see the movie. But to me, every time I see that part of the movie, I feel like I've been talking to my father this whole time, and I'm sure he could see that, I made him famous. But he's in my mind.
That's amazing, and that was a wonderful question, Julianne, and I know you got another one. What is your next question, Julianne?
That was so amazing. Well, my second question for you is, for aspiring artists like myself, it would be interesting to know how your journey started, and through your many experiences in the industry, what advice would you give us artists to take their passion to the next level?
That's a great question. I would ask the same thing myself, because I'm very clueless as to what I was doing. And that shouldn't hamper anybody who wants to pursue a career in animation or storytelling, because not knowing anything about this industry that hopefully you are passionate about, that makes you want to go in there. The thing that I feel in hindsight that I had going for me, besides the fact that I needed the skills to be able to be there, like I drew and I designed, and I needed to squeak in the door so that I can get hired. But the thing that made me stay was knowing that understanding that all the things that we're doing, whether you're character design or designing backgrounds or creating color palettes, is that all of you are doing storytelling. You're doing these stories. You're not just making swatches of color and designing fantastic characters. You are always asking, when you're making these movies, what's the story about? What's the character going through? That actually allows you to bring whatever skills you have to be able to tell this story. Without that cohesion, the movies feel a little like kind of cobbled together. But when it works, it almost feels like everything is seamless, from design and color, cinematography and music. All of them are doing one thing, and it is telling the one story. And because of that, understanding that, I think that my career, not wanting even to be in animation, to falling into it, and then people nominating me to positions of advancement, they seem to have understood that I like storytelling, even though I'm not pushing for it. That my participation in making these movies are storytelling based, even though I didn't understand that. All the way up to the point where I get nominated for story at the Oscars. Someone who's been saying, I'm not that person who writes and creates these stories, I end up getting nominated for that. And I feel like that's a great byproduct for someone who's not even intending to go and do that. Now imagine all of you people, young people, older people, thinking that I want to do this thing. Imagine what you can do if you knew this is what you wanted to do. I was clueless, bumping into walls and finding that I can probably do this. And I question it all the time. So I believe that if you understood it, you might be able to actually speed up the journey faster than I did. You could focus on the role of storytelling in that aspect of the industry that you are part of, because you are always telling stories.
Wow, that's well said. Well, thank you so much, Julianne, with those amazing questions. Now let's moving forward. And I heard that you are working something special to Filipino audience right now about the culture, the Philippines.
Yes. I mean, now that I'm an older person, one of the things that as a career in animation is I've been very, very lucky to be part of a lot of very amazing movies, great stories and characters that are memorable to most people who enjoyed the products that I've been part of. I have been part of those movies and inserting my own stories into them, no matter how little or kind of like how slight. I still invest of myself into my participation in the movie. And then now, as I get older, I feel the need to be able to tell stories that I feel is relevant to me. Because having grown up in the Philippines and left it when I was already turning 30, I felt like I've let go of my connection to my native country. And then because of that, I've grown distance from it. I don't understand it as well as I feel I need to. The moment is that it kind of indicts me. It's like traveling through Southeast Asia and finding that my connection to all of these nations in Southeast Asia is very, very powerful. We have a language base that is named as Austronesian, wherein I can find fragments of words and phrases that I understood all throughout Southeast Asia. And I'm wondering why. And also when I travel in Southeast Asia, nobody looks at me twice because I look like everyone else. I feel
Absolutely.
Welcome in every village. I get invited into like weddings in a village in Myanmar. I get to sit down on a roadside like eatery, and nobody thinks of me because I might as well be one of them. And they talk to me in the local language, and I have to go and be so embarrassed that I can't answer them back. But at the same time, I felt very flattered that they would. And that experience of being part of Southeast Asia made me look at my relationship to the Philippines. And in the Philippines, I feel like I know a lot of stories in the Philippines, but I don't know them in a deep level. I would apply the same mission that other people I work with in this mission. How do I understand this in a deeper level? Maybe I should make a movie.
Yes, so having said that, and I know, are you currently working now with the project about the Philippine story?
Yes, I'm working on right now, developing and writing. I'm designing the movie that is based on Philippine lore and mythology, which is something you grew up with when you grew up in the Philippines. But I'm also incorporating a lot of my own personal lived experience of how I feel about me being from the Philippines and who I am and who I've become and what are the features and challenges of that, as well as like what would I want to see in an animated feature that would represent my culture.
So when can we expect that? Is it going to be
I have no
next year?
idea. As you know, well, don't I wish? As you know, making animated features is it moves at a glacial pace. There is nothing. I've heard it described that an animated feature or an animated TV show or streaming limited series, it is all a special effect. Nothing.
We cannot wait. Yes, we cannot wait for that. We cannot wait for that. I'm sure it's gonna be totally amazing.
Oh yeah, me too. I wish I could be done tomorrow.
Yes,
but I can't.
Yes. Now let's go with the fun part with our question. 5 things about that any of your friends and fans don't know about you yet.
Oh, I don't know. A lot of them are kind of downers, unfortunately. One is that when we were growing up, my family lost everything, house, everything, completely, when I was in high school, and then had to kind of skip having to go to college, and all my friends were going to school. Lost everything. I mean, really, completely rock bottom, and that condition hung around for many years. It almost made me feel like this is kind of pathetic. This is the end of the road for,
wow.
And because of that, you know, I felt like I was so glum that after a certain point, I decided that I was going to change my attitude towards this kind of very gray outlook, which will not break. It's like a curse that will never end.
Wow.
That when I introduced myself in a different location, like when I finally stepped into an art school, and I had to keep it secret from my father because he didn't know that I was going to be studying art.
So this is number 2 now. This is the number 2.
Yeah,
yes.
I kept the secret from my father that I was going to go to art school. I felt like I found my people, and I created this persona of a person who actually was up for anything and will join things that I've never done before. I will sing on stage. I'll perform and act and things that an introverted artist would never do.
That's
and
3.
From then on,
that's already 3.
I transformed myself into someone that would be kind of the person that in the room is not going to be just sitting and just like hugging the walls. And also the other one is that I worked in advertising in Manila. My career was to be like an art director. So I handled like toothpaste, deodorants.
Wow.
Yes, laundry detergent.
That's amazing.
Whatever. You know, it was a way of making little movies and these ads where you're at the end of it, you got to show the box and the slogan. That's close enough.
Yeah, that's pretty good. We got the 5 over there. And one last thing, a piece of advice to those who would like to be in the animation world, Ronnie.
Well, I think that you should find your people. That's my thing. It's like it's all about like finding who is you going to be your tribe. Because that tribe speaks a certain language. They actually behave a certain way. They know where to go. The features of the world that they inhabit will be the features of the world that you will be part of. So if you really want to be there, you have to look and become like a member of that tribe. And whatever that tribe makes is probably what you want to make. And that is the thing. And sometimes it involves moving. Sometimes it involves just seeking them out where you are. But you can't be shy about that. You have to find these people, because those are steps that bring you closer and closer to the expression of the career that you want. And you will always be surprised that it'll move faster than you thought it would, and you would meet amazing people who are going to be your mentors along the way.
Well, that's beautiful, Ronnie del Carmen, Oscar-nominated director of Inside Out. Thank you so much for being in our show.
Thank you, and thank you, Julianne. This was fun. All right, guys.